Hello again. I'm Tripp Rogers. He's the Hall of Famer Mike Scheck. We are the Fantasy Sultans, getting set for week number 11. And you may notice some different backgrounds. We're not in our usual studio setting. Hall of Famer, where are you this week?
I am in the Smoky Mountains of beautiful Tennessee.
Enjoying beautiful Tennessee barbecue, correct?
That's right. Good
Yeah.
old Southern cooking.
That's right. You got it, baby. I'm down in Florida. The Annika Golf Tournament is taking place this weekend in at Pelican Golf Club. This is an event I volunteered for the last couple of years. But the big news today, Caitlin Clark played in the Pro-Am. So there were a lot of eyes on this. This is the next to last event in the LPGA season. So all the top players are here, and this is a big tournament. And Annika Sorenstam, obviously the namesake for the tournament. This is the third year I've been here, and it's a really nice golf course, and it's really a lot of fun. And I pay to volunteer. What kind of schmuck am I? What kind of schmuck am I? Well, then again, we give away all our fantasy secrets,
I
and
was just
oh
gonna
yeah,
say we
yeah,
we
we're
give out
big.
all our information. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
we're
right.
schmucks too. We're schmucks too. In the one league we're in, it's the best of times and the worst of times for the Sultans. One of us is on top, the other's rock bottom. No names mentioned, rock bottom Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's right.
And but in the Sultans League, one of us is towards the top, the other of us is right in the middle. So there you
Right in the
go.
middle. We'll
We're
take right in
good.
the middle.
We'll definitely take right in the middle. And our buddy Caddy Bob, not a happy camper, pulled the wrong club on 18 and lost to me Monday night. and and our buddy Mac is awaiting to hear what we have. We got to thank Mac for joining us last week, but
Yes, we
he's
do.
waiting for what I'm going to say now that I am the first place club in the league we share. And all I have to say is Matthew, my fiance's son, getting a beating this week. That's all I have to say. He's getting a beating. He's getting a beating. And oh, who beat him last week? The Hall of Famer. You'll get a
Yes.
double beatdown. You will get a double beatdown from the Fantasy Sultans. But I think he expects that. We're in week number 11 of the NFL. This is a week where you have four teams on bye. Last week, we talked about the real lack of options on the waiver wire. This week, I don't think it's as desolate because, well, we have seen some injuries and some performances that have changed the waiver wire. And that's a positive because there are more players available and you can pick up some really quality players too.
Yeah, and the performances have been pretty well too. I mean, talk about last week with Cincinnati and Baltimore kicking off the week. Two teams scoring 69 combined points in that one. Joe Burrow throws for 400. Jamar Chase caught 250 of those yards. And now, if you had both of those players, you scored 100 points from those two alone. And likewise with the combo of Lamar Jackson and Jamar Chase. And right now, those two are in the top three in points scored overall for the season. Derrick Henry is coming in third. So if you have those players, you're probably, I don't know if you're undefeated. You might be, but you're stacking up the wins and you're getting it done in fantasy. So other players having a good season too. Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, which by the way, those two are going to be duking it out tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. That looks to be a fun matchup.
Yeah, Thursday night football game. Again, listen, Amazon has got some great games this year. Last Thursday, this Thursday. Very competitive matchups. And again, you talk about fantasy. I think it's kind of interesting if you look at the top of the NFL draft. Caleb Williams went number one, and let's face it, he's having some real struggles in Chicago. Number two, Jaden Daniels. He's loving life right now with Washington, but This is a quality matchup and a quality opponent for the Commanders. So let's see how good this team is. Although you got to give credit where credit is due, and I think we mentioned this that Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit for turning around the culture in Washington. And listen, fantasy wise, everybody, what was the line that Matt Lee, Scary Terry? Well, Terry McLaurin has certainly worked out pretty well for me. And if you've got him on your fantasy team, you have to be happy with the way it's worked out. The running back situation in Washington has been questionable. And again, when you talk about the Eagles, you talk about Saquon Barkley, you talk about Jalen Hurts, you talk about A.J. Brown, and you also talk about Devonta Smith. You also talk about Nick Sirianni. Yeah, moving on that. That point. And the other thing I think we need to talk about real quick before we get into our exports is it is now week 11. And in all intents and purposes, the fantasy season is going to end for you in the next couple of weeks. Some leagues go 13 weeks, some weeks go 14 weeks, some go 15 weeks. Most playoffs begin week 16, although a lot of leagues playoffs start week 15 because you do not want to play on that dreaded 18th week when a lot of teams, which have nothing to play for, will sit their starters and you could get really burned on that. I mean, many a championship game or many a championship season has been derailed by that week 18 game. So a lot of fantasy ends on week 17, and this is the home stretch. So you're going to want to make some deals, or not make deals necessarily, but you want to make some pickups that
Yeah.
could be what puts you over the line and again set you up for success in the playoffs. And one thing, speaking of sets you up for success, if you have managed to stay relevant, fantasy relevant, and you are in the hunt, you got a nice bonus if you had the number one draft pick and took Christian McCaffrey because he came back last week. And I think the sky's the limit right now for anybody who has a 49er player, with the exception of Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero, because CMC came in as advertised and the 49ers look really good.
Yeah, the 49ers, of course, we always said that, when Christian McCaffrey's healthy, you know, sky's the limit for him. And of course, when he's not, then that's what you've got to deal with, a boomer bust type of player. But McCaffrey is always on his A game when he's healthy.
Yes, he is. That he is. All right, we're coming into week 11. We got 4 teams on bye this week. The Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray's done rather well these days. If you have him as your quarterback, you're doing well. Carolina Panthers, meh. New York Giants, bigger meh. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's ironic because the Buccaneers and the Giants will do battle next Sunday. The Buccaneers, of course, have had a lot of injury, issues throughout the year, but they're still in the hunt because the NFC South, nobody is really blowing the NFC South away, and the NFC South is also the division of the Carolina Panthers. I don't want to say that too loud because the Hall of Famer likes the Carolina Panthers. The Hall of Famer, not me. I like the New York Giants. And I should mention at this point, if you listen to our podcast, you got to listen to our Sunday with the Fantasy Sultans show because I will be talking about the New York Football Giants, and I'm going to throw some wild stuff out there, Mike. I'm going to give you it's called a tease. So I'm going to give you some wild stuff. And where can you listen to the Sunday Fantasy Sultans show?
Yeah, you can hear us on Fox Sports Radio New Jersey, Fox Sports Radio Jersey Shore, and Fox Sports Radio New Jersey.com. That would be on 93.5 FM, 1450 AM. And of course, that the Jersey Shore, 100.1 HD3 and 95.9 HD3. And that's Sundays at noon.
Sunday with the Sultans. You're on the Fantasy Sultans podcast. Again, he's the Hall of Famer Mike Scheck. I'm Tripp Rogers. And we will start with our import exports. Hall of Famer, you're up.
And the player that's going to certainly help you out this week, rookie running back in Denver, Audric Estime. And I don't think anybody had him on the bingo card last week, being the Broncos' leading rusher against Kansas City, 14 carries, 53 yards. Starter Javonte Williams only get 1 carry for 1 yard. Now it appears Estime could be getting a look at the team's lead back. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be number one, but certainly the opportunity is there. So he would be a player that you'd want to pick up. Let's go to Indianapolis and wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. Mitchell played well in his first game as a full-time receiver in the Colts offense. We saw that Michael Pittman was sidelined. Mitchell played 94% of those snaps, finishing 17.1 target share and 71 scoreless receiving yards. Now, he's worth a pickup this week and a possible flex against Detroit and New England the following couple of weeks. So he's another player that you'd want to grab. Let's keep it rolling with tight end Will Dissly of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, quietly, Dissly has been putting together nice performances. It correlates with how well Justin Herbert's doing. He could be considered another useful pickup or a possible streamer. But Dissly clocking in with at least 5 targets and 4 receptions, as well as 185 yak yards. He's 8th among tight ends at the position. The only thing that really hasn't been there is the touchdowns, but at some point, I believe he will find the end zone. All right, let's go to the exports. And a player you want to drop, you teased it that it's going to be coming up on our Sultans show, Sunday with the Sultans this week, the New York Giants. Well, the running back, Devin Singletary, just not getting it done for the New York Giants. The Giants have really turned to Tyrone Tracy. He's the guy. The Giants are on a bye this week and really not saying much with Tracy's performance. He's rushed for 100 yards, but had a crucial fumble in overtime against Carolina last week. So it's kind of been like, those rookie growing pains are going to happen for him. And Devin Singletary, really, I just don't think he's showing the consistency enough for you to keep him on your roster. How about the Rams quarterback, Matt Stafford? He's another one you want to send to waivers. Career low performances as of late. This is not Stafford-like, but on Monday night, he did throw for 293 yards and 1 very bad interception. He's had at least 1 pick over the last 6 games, less than 16 points as well. So he's really not getting it done. Yeah, he's an average quarterback when it comes to fantasy, and will turn out some decent performances here and there, but I think there are better quarterbacks out there, a la Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, or Russell Wilson. So go ahead and send him to waivers. Tripp, what do you got?
Before I get into that, I thought was interesting when we talk about fantasy stat lines. Did you happen to catch that Jared Goff's stat line midway through the third quarter was minus 0.6 of a point? He threw 5 interceptions in the game. Now he ended up with 12 for the game, but listen, this Detroit Lions team is a monster. I mean, the 2 running backs are great.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is really good. Sam Laporta, although Laporta's banged up, but anytime you have a quarterback with a horrific performance like that, you think they're going to lose? Oh, they didn't lose. They won. All right, import exports on my thing. Hey, Mike, it's time to get on the Gus bus. We're riding the Gus bus again. Gus Edwards is back with the Chargers. Let's be realistic here. He had his first game back after injury, but he is being eased into actions. He's in a decent timeshare. He'll get a lot of red zone carries. So I think Gus Bus is something to pick up, and he is available in leagues. You want to get on the Gus Bus and start riding the Gus Bus. Wide receiver. Okay. First of all, John Mechie for Houston. Before we go any further, those uniforms on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
Were awful.
Yep.
Awful. And
Terrible.
with a capital A. They were, I think they're going to make our list of grievances for the fantasy Festivus. They're going to make, they were terrible. That was awful uniforms. But yeah, John Mechie certainly showed with Nico Collins coming back. He's still going to be worth a stash because, Tank Dell has had his injuries and Nico Collins was injured. Mechie did well Sunday. He might be worth a stash on your roster, especially as you head down the stretch in playoff time. And last but not least, I want to give you a defense for an import this week because, you might need a defense. After all, we got 4 teams. Well, actually, you have one team and 1.5 teams and 2.5 nothings. But you might need a defense here. And I'll give you a streaming defense to grab, the Miami Dolphins. Now, why do you say that? Well, the Dolphins showed okay in the Monday night game against the Rams. But the other thing is they're playing the Las Vegas Raiders this week. So if you need to stream a defense, there's the guy you want to grab. Okay, Dumpsville or Auschgespiel, get out. Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. Now, we have been talking about Trevor Lawrence. The shoulder injury is going to affect him. I don't think it's going to help you in your fantasy playoffs. Even if Lawrence, they have the week 12 bye, and if Lawrence comes back week 13, this is a team that's headed for an ugly split with their coach, Doug Peterson. And this has been a lost year. Tank Bigsby is now banged up. I just don't see they lost Christian Kirk also. So that offense is really going nowhere. So I say at this point, dump Trevor Lawrence because I don't think he's going to be able to help you. Even if you're going to save him on your roster for a bye week start, I mean, next week you have Josh Allen out because the Bills have a week 12 bye. I don't think you're saving Lawrence for that. I'd say get rid of him. And then the other person I want to export, get rid of, toss out the window with the baby's bathwater is Jordan Mason and Isaac Arendo. It was nice while it lasted.
Yeah.
These guys have become irrelevant. If you have them on your roster, I do not think you need to keep them because right now you've got to get people you can count on during your fantasy playoffs and down the stretch. These guys are only relevant if Christian McCaffrey gets injured. And even then, I'm not sure because the 49ers are in a desperate situation for the playoffs and they're going to throw the ball an awful lot. Now, I know you've got other issues, but listen, Brock Purdy is doing a pretty good job. George Kittle doing a pretty good job. I think these guys, again, Christian McCaffrey is back. I think you ride him. I think he's going to be okay. And I think these guys now become fantasy irrelevant. So I think you've got to export them this week. Mike, week 11, again, part of this also, we have week 12. You have a number of teams that are on a bye week 12. And again, one of them is the Bills and Josh Allen. So that's a big bye. Jacksonville is also going to be off. But then you hit week 13, and that is Thanksgiving week, which means we'll have 3 games on Thursday and 1 game on Friday, the Black Friday game. We'll have the Fantasy Sultans. Remember, our podcast that week will drop on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. That's the 27th of November. We'll drop it at 9:00 in the morning. So you'll be able to get all your fantasy insights before that big weekend of games. And there are no buys that weekend. Everybody's playing.
Yep.
The NFL is not going to give it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you'll have a couple of teams on bye the following week, and that's going to be it for the buys. Because I think just about everybody has had their bye. But the NFL has tried to stretch it out so there's not that many teams. Remember, in the past, they used to have weeks where they have 6 teams on bye. And I think they've kind of stretched out the calendar now on the buys so you don't have as many teams on bye. Hey, Mike, tell them where they can hear that. We mentioned it once. We'll mention it again. The Sunday with the Fantasy Sultans on the radio.
Yeah, that's right. It's so nice. We named it twice. It's Sunday with the Fantasy Sultans. You could hear us on Fox Sports Radio New Jersey, Fox Sports Radio Jersey Shore, and foxsportsradionewjersey.com. And again, that is on 93.5 FM, 1450 AM, 100.1 HD3, 95.9 HD3. And of course, that's right, Sunday at noon on Fox Sports Radio New Jersey.
.com.
.com. That's right. And you can hear us on the .com too.
Yes, on the dot, on the dot and the com. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And of course, the Fantasy Sultans podcast drops every Thursday at 9 a.m. except for the week of Thanksgiving, which will be Wednesday at 9 a.m. If you want to drop us a line, a comment, question, we would love to hear from you. All you have to do is send it to fantasysultans@gmail.com. Don't forget about my other podcast, Tripp's Take. You can find it at the same spot you can find the Fantasy Sultans, Sultans. That is on Spotify for podcasters and YouTube. All you have to do is search for Tripp's Take. Like the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, you've listened to WTRSradio.com. Every week we're giving you the information. We want to help you win. We don't take a cut. This is not like, a betting thing where we get a little vigorish on this. No, we don't. We want to help you win. You listen to us, you're going to win. You don't listen to us, you're going to lose for the most part. But I know smart people, such as Mac, listen to us, and they're winning more than they were last year because we are the Fantasy Sultans.
And you are not.